In the roaring chaos of the wrestling ring, where lights blazed and the crowd's chant echoed like thunder, there was a young man who seemed unstoppable, muscles carved from years of relentless training and a grin that exuded confidence. This man was larger than life. Every time he slammed an opponent to the mat, the cheers grew louder. But behind the bravado, behind the persona that millions adored, an invisible weight bore down on him. One that no amount of strength could easily shake off. He had a name that millions recognized, both in the ring and in movie theaters across the globe. But that name hadn't always come easy. He once walked in the halls of universities and football stadiums with the weight of failed dreams resting heavy on his shoulders. He had been destined for greatness on the football field, but after a series of injuries, his dreams came crashing down. I didn't just lose a game, he recalled. I lost my entire identity. After being cut from the Canadian football team, he found himself with just $7 to his name. $7. It was a cruel reminder of the fleeting nature of success. The crushing failure spiraled into an overwhelming darkness. He didn't tell many people at the time, but the depression crept into his life. Quiet at first, then suffocating. I didn't want to do a thing, he later admitted. I was devastated, and I felt like I had nothing. For years, this quiet battle with mental health raged on. Even as he transformed into a wrestling icon, beloved by millions, as he roared one-liners, the ring became his battleground, not just for his opponents, but for his dreams that lingered in the recesses of his mind. But the depression doesn't care about fame. And at his lowest point, even adoration from his fans couldn't fill the void. I didn't realize how much I was hiding, he confessed. His first significant turning point came not from lifting weights or defeating a rival wrestler, but from the acknowledgement of his own humanity. It was in moments of deep reflection that he found strength to reach out, to share his struggles with those he loved. He began to speak about his depression, opening up to the world and his fans about what he had been going through. It's okay to not be okay, he told them. It's okay to talk about it, to ask for help. And ask for help he did. Slowly, he began to build himself back up, not just physically, but mentally. Therapy, supportive friends, and his own determination to overcome the darkness became his coping mechanisms. He rediscovered his purpose, not on the football field, but in inspiring others. He knew he had been given a second chance, and he would use it to its fullest. Soon, his career shifted. From the wrestling persona, it gave way to a Hollywood superstar. The once struggling athlete became one of the most bankable stars in the world. But even as the success mounted, he never forgot the silent battle that he had fought. He had made it his mission to speak openly about mental health, particularly among men who often felt they couldn't express their own emotions. We all go through the sludge, he said, but the key is to remember you're not alone. The man who could lift boulders, topple enemies, and crush records understood that true strength came from vulnerability. He used his platform, now larger than ever, to encourage others to talk about mental health. If you're going through something, I just want you to know you're not alone, he shared in a viral Instagram post. The post garnered millions of likes, not for his fame, but for his raw, honest truth in his words. His legacy would not be defined by the movies he starred in or the wrestling matches he won. It would be in the lives that he touched, the people he inspired to reach out and ask for help, to face their own battles head on. He had become an advocate, not just for mental health, but for the idea strength is found in connection. As the story of this man's journey unfolded, it became clear who he was. This titan, both physical strength and emotional vulnerability, is none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. His story is not just one of fame and fortune, but one of resilience, empathy, and the power of openly confronting the shadows that we all face. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the man who once had $7 to his name, who faced crushing depression after his football dreams were shattered, emerged not only as a global superstar, but as a champion for mental health awareness. His legacy is a reminder that even the strongest among us can face darkness. But through openness, connection, and the courage to ask for help, we can all overcome it. Let his story inspire you to confront your own challenges with the same tenacity and heart. As you reflect on The Rock's journey, ask yourself, what battles are you facing? Know that strength isn't in hiding the struggle, but facing it and talking about it and asking for help from others when needed. Remember, you are not alone in this fight. Like Dwayne Johnson, you too can rise stronger than before, ready to inspire those around you. Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me, as always, Doc Jess.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
What did you think about that? Did you know that about Dwayne?
No, I did not. I do like him as an actor. He's fun to watch. Some of his, especially with Kevin Hart, some of their banter is good medicine for the soul. Get you laughing.
You know what I like? I like more than their banter on screen. I love their banter off screen.
Yes.
Do you watch them on Twitter or X? Do you watch them on X?
No.
Oh my! They troll each other relentlessly.
So bad. Yeah, that's so funny.
Or in interviews.
Yes.
The interview I don't really care about. No. I like watching the behind the scenes of the interview.
Yeah. They're so
amazing.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah, they're always messing with each other.
I love it. One thing that I think is interesting about, that comes to the forefront of my mind as it's revealing who it is and his ability to overcome that darkness of depression is how we a lot of the times go back to that ACC. Yes. The anterior cingulate cortex. Yes. And how in professional athletes and soldiers, right, that ACC is larger because we're built on a foundation of doing things that are hard that we don't want to do. And so that part of our brain grows. And so it's always encouraging to me and solidifying when I see a professional athlete, somebody he played professional football in Canada and wrestling. If anybody knows what it's like to do hard things when you don't feel like doing it, it would be Dwayne Johnson. And so it's encouraging to see him be open and vulnerable about his struggles, but also be an advocate that you can overcome it by doing hard things. Right. And anybody can do that. And so, yes, he has a overdeveloped ACC. We have an overdeveloped ACC. Yeah. But anybody can have one. Yes. 45 days and you'll be on your way to building up your anterior cingulate cortex, challenging yourself every day. If you get up at 6, get up at 5, spend an hour working out, reading, studying, doing it every day, getting in the cold plunge, seeking out difficult things to do. When you're at work and there's a new project coming up and everybody's like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that," volunteer for that. Yeah. When I was in the Marines, I would volunteer for everything. And they tell you, don't volunteer. I would volunteer for everything because I wanted to get the most out of it. I'd get stuck with some crappy details, but more often than not, I got some really cool experiences. There was an op where we were in 29 Palms. And if you've ever been in 29 Palms, everybody says it's the butthole of America. And when you go, you'll understand why. It's miserable out there. And of course, they're going to put a Marine Corps base in 29 Palms. Mm-hmm. Terrible place. Nobody wants to go out there and do what's called a macaques. It's a big field exercise, lasts like a month. So they were asking for volunteers from Anglico to go and do that. And so I'll go. You know what I ended up doing the whole time? What? I was the general's driver. Oh, gosh. That is awesome. So they asked for volunteers. So I put my hand up like, I'll go. The whole unit was going. Oh my gosh. They just didn't know it. But I volunteered and said, all right, Q, you have a special detail. They sent me up to headquarters, which is MEF,
Marine Expeditionary Force. They sent me up there and they gave me an assignment. I was the general's driver. I sat in AC the whole month, ate awesome. Because when they'd come out, I didn't eat in the chow hall with them. Like they would bring me food out because I had to be in the vehicle ready at all times.
At all times.
And so I'm in uniform, sitting in the vehicle, like reading a book. We didn't have phones with the internet on it back then. But I'm just in there reading a book, doing whatever, sleeping. They'd come out and they'd bring me whatever they were eating, food. Like good food, not food that you're eating in the field, not MREs. So I was sleeping in a hotel.
Oh my gosh.
On base.
Nice.
I would volunteer for everything, but every now and then you'd get one of those things. And everybody else spends a month in the field, come back all dirty and broken and pissed off. What have you been doing, Q? I'm like, hanging out with the general.
Nice. In the butthole of America.
Eating cake.
That's awesome.
But so I would do that though. I was like, I'll do it. I'll try whatever. And I got to experience a lot of really cool stuff because I would just volunteer. So think about that. In your job, volunteer for stuff. Do stuff that's hard, that's out of your comfort zone. If you do this every single day for 45 days, I guarantee you everything else will suddenly start feeling easier.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about like that concept later in our tool as well, specifically on how to jumpstart recovery for depression. If depression is something that you struggle with or something a loved one that you know struggles with, this is going to be a good episode. At the end, we're going to talk about some tools to help with that. So
one of the other cool things, a great example I was just thinking of is my wife, Holly. She's been going to the gym now, I want to say for like 4 months, almost every day in the gym. She's losing weight, but really she's gaining a ton of muscle.
Yeah.
And so she would have difficulty sometimes lifting stuff up. We have farm animals, so hay and lifting up, bags of grain and things like that. So I was always the one doing it. The other day, I'm unloading grain out of the back of the trucks, like 80-pound bags of grain. And she just like pops one of these things on her shoulder. And I'm like, what? Because she chose to do hard things in the gym. She got physically stronger. And so when it came to throwing that 80 pounds of grain on her shoulder, she just did it like it was nothing. Before, she could have never done that. She could have never lifted that thing up enough to even put it on her shoulder, let alone walk 40 meters to go put it in the barn. But because she'd spent months building up her physical prowess, she was able to do it very, very easily.
Physical prowess. That's nice.
Yeah, good, right?
Good $2 phrase. Yeah.
You seem surprised that I would know such words.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not educated
at all.
Like y'all two in here.
Oh, gosh.
But it's the same thing with doing difficult things.
Yeah.
The more of these little difficult tasks that we seek out over time, then when hardship comes upon us, we'll be able to go through it easily while everybody else is freaking out. COVID, everybody was freaking out. I was good.
Oh, it's good.
I spent my time traveling, dealing with hardship, being deployed, being in the Marine Corps, traveling overseas. Like, I was fine.
Yeah.
Other
and I see that
in their mind.
Yeah. I see that as a constant struggle, even in my own life. Right. But, because I see it in other people, I'm more cognizant to make sure that I don't struggle with it as much. And that is, when we get comfortable, we forget where we've been. Right. And so it takes intentionality to remember where we've been. It takes intentionality to remember what to be grateful for. And that, again, is going to be another tool. And that one story that I love to remind myself of is when I came home on my R&R, because we were deployed from Korea to Iraq, a lot of us were out of the country for almost 2 years. So they did let us have a 7 to 10 day R&R. And so I remember coming home and people saying, obviously your family is like, when you're asked, what are you most excited about coming home to? Obviously family, friends, like that's a given. But like with no audience, what are you really excited about coming home to? And I remember just thinking, oh, I can't wait to wake up in the middle of the night, not have to put on my full battle rattle, walk 100 yards to an outhouse to pee, Go back, take it off, try to wind down, go back to sleep, right? I can't wait to wake up, walk across carpeted floor to the bathroom, stumbling around, go to the bathroom and crawl right back in my warm bed, right? Like I was so excited to have that again. And I mean, 20 years later, I have to remind myself, I was once there and now I'm complaining about what? Oh, I did see a video that was really touching, and the person said, instead of thinking I have to clean up after my kids, I have to do this, I get to, I have
one word. Yeah.
I have kids I get to help clean up after. I have kids I get to help teach and rear and direct in how to clean up after themselves. I have a husband I get to spoil with breakfast in bed in the morning or something like that. And my husband used that actually too. When he started getting really busy at the barbershop, he started to feel that like, oh my gosh, I have to work 10 hours today. And he's like, I get to. This has been my dream for how long?
That's right.
To have my own barbershop, to have tons of walk-ins, to impact the community, right? And just that one word, it drastically changed his life. And so we're going to get a little bit more into that.
You shift your mindset.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really important. It's crucial actually to getting through those difficult times. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do afterwards.
Yep. I have one scripture for today. Do you have one? We want to do cards?
Yeah, let's do cards.
Let's do cards.
Do cards first.
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right, let's see.
All right, let's do our word teaser card for the day. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, let's see.
Wind power contributes over 36% of this state's energy consumption, the highest percentage of any state. Can you guess which one? If you get this, I'm going to die. Right here. Do you know, Casey?
I'm pretty sure I know. I just don't believe in the whole wind power actually like being efficient enough to actually add power. When you think of how much money you spend
here we go
to build one of those things. And do you know there's entire landfills that are just full of those things? How much money and power you spend to build one windmill? I want to say it takes like 70 years for it to ROI.
Yeah. Okay, what's your answer?
My answer would be, it's either going to be Nebraska or maybe Wisconsin. I'm going to go with Nebraska.
Iowa.
I was close.
It's good they have all that wind. It no doubt helps keep their air smelling fresh, which they probably need considering they also have about a third of the pigs in the United States.
Okay, I was close with Nebraska.
That was pretty close.
All right.
Yeah.
So back to wind energy and the fallacy.
Don't do this to our viewers. No. Save that for your Q-spiracy podcast shorts.
Q-spiracy.
Add that to the list, Casey.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
Nice. So last week I was at an event. It was an entrepreneur event that another coach from the blocks was putting on. So there were like 20 or 30 entrepreneurs there, and we were teaching pitching. And this is what I taught them. I taught them about the ACC and about doing hard things. I shared with them how to work on stage because a lot of them haven't been on stages. They're doing their businesses from a lot of coaches and health coaches and things like that from Zoom, which is great. It's a small stage. But I told them if you really want to get good, you've got to get on a bigger stage where you're uncomfortable. And so this is what I was teaching when I was there, was how to grow that ACC, how to become better at their craft by challenging themselves to do the hard things every day.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you would talk about that.
I know, right? It was fun. I had no internet service. I thought, it's good. I'll go up there. I can work with them a little bit. I can do some work there. I was in Lake Tahoe. There is no internet service where we were. There's internet in South Lake Tahoe, but not where we were. There was nothing. I could barely get a phone call out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Struggle is real.
The struggle is real. Is real.
Well, I would like to share the scripture that I have with us today. It's found in John 16:33. And it says, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me, God, you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And there's a lot of scriptures in the word that talks about choosing joy, right?
Yes, and James, the book of James.
Yeah.
James 1-5.
Yes.
Count it all joy, brothers, when you fall into various trials.
Yeah, lots of.
Count it all joy. That's exactly what you were talking about, where you change that word and you change the mindset.
Yeah.
I don't have to pick up after my kids. I get to. And that's what James is talking about. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials.
Yeah.
It says if, it says when.
Yeah. Just like this, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for he has overcome the world. And right, for our audience that aren't believers, this might not make sense to you, but for those of us that are believers, that hope is there to renew and to give us peace and encouragement and to remind us that he does work all things together for the good for those who love him and called according to his purposes. And we have to meet him halfway and do what the word says. And the word talks a lot about captivating our thoughts unto the Lord. Think of things that are honorable and true and praiseworthy.
Things that are above, not below.
Yes,
all
lots
of these
it.
Phrases are in there.
And which is a little plug-in for our live, right?
Yes.
We're going live. We're having our first live an in-person recording event on Saturday, September 21st. That's this upcoming Saturday.
Upcoming Saturday.
Yeah. And we're going to have a really special guest.
Oh, I'm going to have to practice because Casey's not going to be able to edit the story. You're doing the story.
I'm doing the story.
I'm off the hook. I was like, I got to get this down. If you guys, the story that I tell in the beginning of every episode, poor Casey has to edit so much of my flubs in there. So thank you, Casey.
Yeah. And we have a one and only first time debut of the very special Liberty Murray coming on to do one of her songs.
Yes?
Yes.
Which one is it?
She's going to sing a Stephanie Gretzinger song, I believe. It's the song that ties in with my story.
Okay.
And brings me a lot of peace. And so I've actually asked her to learn this song when she was 13 so that she could play it at my funeral someday because the song means so much to me.
She's 13? Bro, what are you doing?
Is that bad?
I don't know. It's bad. It's not good.
Just wait till you hear her sing it. She plays the piano and sings it.
I need you to learn this song so when I die.
Yes, we talk about that stuff all the time.
Bro, I don't know.
Nailing it as a mom. Okay. I've told the girls.
You guys let me know. Is that good or bad? Like you guys vote. Let me know. I don't know. I'm on the fence.
This song has helped me through many PTSD attacks, and it's a very special song for me, and she sings it beautifully. So
I'm sure she does. She's an incredible artist.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to debut her and give me a moment in between reading the part of my book because remember when I read it last time, we had to Casey was like, let's take a break because it's hot in here. And we were like, oh, okay. So we're live.
Yeah.
This is going to be really fun.
So she's going to give you your break.
She's going to give me my break. Yes. Excited for that.
We'll have to pan to Liberty.
Well, the mastermind Casey will figure it out. Yeah. Okay. So today's tool is really, we're just going to kind of dissect depression and the difference between a diagnosed major depressive disorder versus depression that all human beings struggle with on a daily basis during different seasons of their lives, right? So major depressive disorder is an extreme form of depression where there's major chemical imbalances. And that is going to have to be a whole nother podcast. If you have a loved one or a friend who has a genuine diagnosis of major depressive disorder, my heart goes out to you. It is a really, really hard thing to do life with somebody who has that struggle. And so if you're watching now, know that our hearts go out to you, and it's a whole different skill
set that you're going to need.
Skill set. Yes. And so I meet with a couple of wives who are married for 20 plus years to husbands who struggle with major depressive disorder, and as Christian wives, right? It's a really hard thing to be a support and to be there and to watch somebody that you love so much struggle in that way. But the rest of us struggle with depression off and on in our lives, right? And so that's kind of what we're going to unpack in just a couple minutes. And a few things in my life, right? As I'm like The Rock, being vulnerable and transparent, is a lot of my depression stemmed from my PTSD. So when I would have high stressful situations in my life where my PTSD was at its, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10, after that initial activation of that PTSD, kind of the fallout of that was a season of depression. And so in my walk, I had to learn, what are my triggers that put me up to that 8 or 10 out of 10, and start preparing and being proactive for that fallout. It's kind of like a hangover, right? And so putting things into place for myself that I knew would help pull me out of that depression quicker than if I were to just sit in it. How about you? What is your experience with your depression in your life?
I feel it come on from time to time. A lot of times when I go and do an event, and there's all this anxious energy before.
Yeah.
And I go and I do the event, and, it turns out great. And then for the next 2 or 3 days, same thing. I'm like coming down off of that because my body is so used to when that adrenaline hits, it's fight or flight. I'm in a fight for my life. Yeah. And I have to continually remind myself that I'm not, but those chemicals still get activated in my system.
Yep.
I still have to deal with the fallout of that. And that is depression.
Yeah.
And then I'm picking my presentation apart. And so it's really difficult. One thing that I've done is I've started to collect all of the positive feedback that I get from people.
That's brilliant.
And so now when I start to feel that way, I can go back and read that. Like, yes, I am having an impact. Yes, there's these things. I went and did an event. I'm not going to tell you which event it was, but there's an event I did recently where I went. It was this big event, and I'm the keynote, and nobody showed up. There's one person that showed up to this event. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, all right, well, God told me that take every opportunity to speak, even if it's only to an audience of one. And so I did. I got up on that stage. There's a stage. I got up on the stage and I spoke. I gave it everything I had, just like I would if there were 100,000 people there. And it really impacted that guy. He came up and talked to me afterwards. Not only that, a couple of days later, I got a message from the host of the event saying that somebody else who was nearby, wasn't even in the space that I was speaking at, but could hear me, came over searching for me because it impacted them. Somebody that wasn't even at the event, wasn't even part of what was going on, just heard me speaking and wanted to come and connect. Those are the kind of things that I keep that help me deal with depression.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's that, right? That intentionally fixing our thoughts on the good, the positive. There's a wonderful TED Talk about getting stuck in the negative, and maybe we can put a link to it or we can watch it someday on here. But, and that's what I do is I become self-aware. What are the things that lead me into that hangover depression type state? And sometimes when at this point in my journey, I know myself pretty well, and I can know if I need a day, just a day to just relax, unwind, take it to myself, sleep in if I need to, go for a walk if I need to. But then after that day, I have a plan in place. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to get fresh air. I'm going to cold plunge. I'm going to force myself to do the hard things.
Do the daily routine.
And get back, right? Because I got places to go. I got people to help. I got a God to serve. And be of good cheer. He has overcome the world. So
remember, guys, if you love this content, which we know you do, like, share, and subscribe. Remember, if you're in the Auburn area or in the Pacific Northwest, if you want to come check out our live, there's going to be links to that in the show notes. Check that out. We'd love to see you guys at our live event. And as always, we love to educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey. So for the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Doc Jess.
And we're out.